guys, Stephanie here. I wanted to put together a tutorial on a book that I'm working on. We have already completed the print book for this, and it is in a series, so we came up with a branding concept that would match her logo. And this is what the print book looks like. So we have on the title page and some of the front matter pages, we have this dotted background. And then we have this ribbon effect. And then we have her logo for her series. And then we repeat the ribbon effect and her little cupcake logo on the front matter pages. And then for the chapter title pages, we repeat the background at above only plus the ribbon, and then down with the page numbers we have the little cupcake. And then on the pages throughout we have a decorative top header along with our text header, and it's just again the polka dotted background with the ribbon. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I've got to get this in ebook form. Alright, so we can do fancy interiors all we want, but what happens when it comes to the ebook is that a lot of these things are not going to work. All right, so like we can't do this background on these pages unless we turn this whole page into an image, and since we have this link here, we're not going to do that. All right, same goes with the dedication and the chapter titles. If I wanted to have, now I could create an image out of this for chapter 1, but the problem is we'd have to do that for every single chapter, and we have this page, this is 288 pages, and we have 22 chapters plus the epilogue. So that means we'd have to have 23 graphics for those chapter title pages. And that may not be the best use of space for an ebook. So we are going to kind of create a modified version for the ebook. So we can keep the chapter titles as text. And we'll just do a decorative border up above. All right. So when we do these fancy interiors, these are some of the things that we have to think about once we move from the print to the ebook. Not everything can translate into an ebook properly. And so we have to improvise. And one thing I do like to do is if I have a nice title page, I do like to keep it intact. And so what I typically do for this is I go into Photoshop, and I've already done this, so let me just kind of cancel out of this. What we can do is we can actually open the print PDF in Photoshop. I'm just going to open up the print PDF. I'm just going to open up page 1. So here is the entire PDF, and we're just going to open up page 1. And I'm just going to crop this, and you can kind of crop it to ebook dimensions, but I am just going to do it by eye and make sure everything is centered properly. And then what I do is once I crop it, I am going to save it. I'm going to do the file export as, and I am going to work to get this file size down as low as possible. The first thing I do is I take the width to be about 1,000 pixels. You can even go smaller if you can't get the file size down. Right now it's 387 kilobytes, and then I'm going to take the quality down to about 70. My goal is to get it around 200. All right, so here we go. We got 179.3. I think that's fine. And then we'll save it as, I usually save it as a title JPEG. All right, so another thing to note, once I complete the interior file and I save it as final, I go in and save it again. And I actually, for my clients, I typically have an ebook file, an interior file, a cover file, and a marketing file, depending on what all they're having me do. So I save out this version under the ebook folder, and I add any links that I create. So the title image is actually in here. We just can't see it. Just for organization purposes. And then I do not save any extra, like I don't say interior final 01 or ebook final 01, because what happens when InDesign generates the Epub, it calls each individual HTML file within the Epub, whatever you name it, plus a number. So I like to keep these somewhat small, so I just name it by the book title. All right, so now what we do is I got to go through and clean up the ebook. All right, so since we typically have on the copyright page, these are usually, if you use my template, these are usually text variables. So because we're going to delete out this title page and use our graphic, we need to just type in and remove the text variables, which I've already done. So I've typed in the book title here because I'm going to get rid of this, and so the text variable would go away, and the author name and whatever else it typically comes through. All right, so now I can actually, I'm going to go ahead and just delete all these graphics. Whoops, didn't mean to delete that. And then we can actually go ahead and delete this, and we are going to change the style for this. We are going to call it image. All right. Now I'm going to actually rename it. I'm actually going to have no space above and no space below, and I'm actually going to do underscore title. So this is going to be our title image. I'm going to change it to it is to auto, so we're good there. And then I am going to place that title graphic. All right. Now InDesign, when you place an image that's too big, it kind of hides it. So I just undo that and I replace it, and then I size it down. It's 375 width. Then I cut it and then I paste it in line. All right. So now that we've got it in line, we can, we don't have to worry about, anchoring it anywhere. All right, so this is how our title page is going to come through. All right, so now what we have to think about is that we know from the title page to the copyright page, we want a page break. And remember that traditionally our page breaks, the way they are set up for the print book, do not work for the ebook. So we need to figure out how to get a page break here. So typically what I will do, sometimes I will use my little break paragraph style. So I'll just do a space and do break. And this should be set as a split document for the Epub. But I'm not going to do that for this particular one because I am very much a traditionalist, so I like things like this, especially for the copyright page, to start lower on a page. All right, so in InDesign, I wouldn't be able to add an inch above this line right here and it start lower on a page. Unfortunately, InDesign doesn't work that way, but for the ebook, it will bring in space above if it's in the style, even though InDesign doesn't show it. I know that's really confusing, but just trust me on that. So we're going to change the space above on this one to be an inch, so that way this page starts lower on a page. And I am actually going to create a new style and call it Copyright 1. So anything that I add a 1 to, that means it's at the beginning of a document. I mean, at the beginning of a page, so it will need a page break. So I go down to export tagging and I tell it to split document for EPUB only for this copyright 1 style, and then I'm going to click on OK. All right, so for the copyright page, that's really nothing, there's nothing else we need to do. All right, so this is going to come through just fine. It's going to come through as a individual page. We're going to have so it's actually comes through 1 inch, comes through as 72 pixels in the ebook. So there's going to be a 72 pixel space above. And then we're going to go to our next page. So we want to delete all of this information, all of this background stuff out. And we're not going to have the cupcakes here. Whoops. And we don't want this to be white, so we're going to change it to black, and then I'm going to redefine my style. And we're going to clear it. All right, so this is the way the header is, the other titles is going to come through. Now, what about some graphics on this page? All right, so this is what it looks like for the print book. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of play around and figure out what I want to do, how I want to design it. And I may just, I'm going to delete this other stuff out so we can see what we're doing. And I am going to take one of these cupcakes, and this is currently white, which will work just fine. We're going to center it. There it goes. And we're going to make this bigger. I think that can work. Because we had this out to the page margins, we do not need that for the ebook. I meant to the trim zone. We do not need that for the ebook. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to center everything to make sure it's all centered. Then we're going to group it. All right, so the reason why we group it is because now it will come together as one graphic. All right, so I'm going to cut this. I'm going to come to this page. Whoops. And I'm going to paste it, but first I am going to create actually I already have one. It's called ornament _ornament. I don't need any space above. I don't need any space below. Actually, we're going to put 0.25 below, and we don't need an indent, and we're going to rename this. We also need to make sure our leading is set to auto, which it is, so we are good there. And then we're going to paste that graphic in. All right, so this is what our pages are going to look like now. We're going to have this cute little banner above, and then we're going to have our other titles. So here we are going to, definitely make sure it's not split document here. And the keep options, just so it looks right to us, can be anywhere. Now this start paragraph on next odd page, this does not come through in an ebook, so this is just visual when you're creating an ebook file. So I just want to be able to see it here. All right, so that's kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. And don't worry about the size, making it fit or anything. InDesign will set that. And we had some different words for her ebook, so I am just going to paste those in, and I am going to put that down, and I'm going to make sure there's a hyperlink here. There is not, and let's make sure you can sign up. We're going to Melissa. All right, so we need to turn this into a hyperlink. All right, so for our character style, we're just going to make sure there isn't sometimes you have to, I'm actually going to delete this. And it will still come through as a blue link. It was just coming through as Times New Roman, and I don't want the font to look any different. All right, so I think we're good here. We don't need to make any other style tweaks, and I can get rid of my little note here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this, and I am going to paste it and then we're going to delete everything we don't need, and then we're going to clear overrides. And the only thing I'm going to do here, spacing works a little differently in on Kindle devices. For the Mobi device, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking clearly today. And when I have space, I typically duplicate it. So any of our chapter space above or first para space above, we have we need to adjust that spacing. So the space before is going to go from 0.125 to 0.25. Now for the for the ebook in InDesign, it's going to look really spaced out, but it will look fine when we come to the ebook. Now these are just the little tweaks I've learned along the way as far as spacing and how it works. All right, we are going to ignore the copyright page for now. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to paste our little graphic again. We're going to delete out the cupcakes and the spaces, and then we're going to change our chapter titles to black. And there we go. So that's the way that's going to look. And just so you can see it, we are going to make this a C. All right, so this is how it will look for the ebook, and this is how it looked for the print book. All right, so some differences, but it still carries the theme throughout. Now, one thing I do like to do that I don't believe I've mentioned before is I delete out this drop cap. So I'm going to delete that out. And I am going to look for this character style because we really shouldn't need this annotation reference. So if you have a bunch of weird character styles in there, look for them and see if they're even needed. And then we can delete them. That's in a space. We do not need that. All right, so we can delete this out. Do not preserve formatting. And there we go. All right. So let's go back to chapter 1. And another thing I like to do at this point, because I'm not going to need any of these master pages, I'm going to set everything to C. All right. So we're going to apply master pages. We're going to apply C to everything. Because remember, content from a master page will not come through in the ebook file. All right. So now that everything is set to C, I just go ahead and clean up my file. I delete all of the master pages except that blank C. All right. And this is just going to get rid of some unnecessary styles once we get to that point. Okay, so we're going to worry about the contents page later, as I said before. And now what I'm going to do is I am just going to go to every single chapter. Whoops. I'm just deleting. I have white cupcakes there. You just can't see them. And we're just going to add this banner above the chapter title. Now, how can we automate this? Well, we only have 22 chapters, so it really wouldn't take that long to manually do it, but we can definitely automate this by, let's go here. Hold on, I got to mentally think about this one. Because of my little, these are images, I may not be able to automate this because we would need 2 clipboards, and that's just not going to work with InDesign. So I'm going to have to go through this manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and replace, delete out my spaces and my cupcakes and put this banner above every chapter. So this is one of the things when you got to think about pricing. This particular job was was a custom job. So when I price for custom jobs, I think about these little tweaks that I'm going to have to do for the ebook. So just from a pricing standpoint, that's what you need to think about, is that custom ebooks are going to take a little bit more tweaking to create a style that will work universally for the ebook. To keep it simple on yourself, it's best to create a universal style that'll work for both ebook and print. But who likes to keep it simple? Just be careful when you're deleting things. You might delete something that you need. And to make it easier, because I'm obviously doing things the wrong way, we'll just do a search for chapter title. And that way I don't have to scroll through. Make it a little bit faster. All right, talking about automating. Let's see, we're going to try to automate this. We're going to do a search for this, find what, and we're going to delete that. Let's see if it finds it. Find next. Nope. All right, we're going to copy this, and we're going to see if it'll find what's in our clipboard. I think you can paste your clipboard here. Let's try it. Clipboard, content. All right, so let's try this. Let's see. The little squiggly and C means clipboard. So find what's in our clipboard. Nope. Okay, that's not going to work. You can only change it to what's in your clipboard. So ignore what I was just trying to do. Those little cupcakes that I added in, since they're graphics. Now, if I had used a dingbat that was a font, we would be able to find it and replace it very easily. But since I used an image, it gets a little complicated. And you can search for those things, but I am not finding a solution to how I can search for this particular string. So I just had to make it hard on myself when I designed this, but that's okay. All right, so let's go to chapter title and just start. All right, so just bear with me as I replace these. Find next, 14. All right, and then we just have the epilogue, and we'll clear that override. All right, so now we're good. For the about the author, we have to think about these. Now, in the print book, I did not include the decorative items above these 2 pages. So we are going to create another style. We're going to call it Other Titles 2. We are going to have an inch space before, so they'll drop lower on the page. And we are going to split document for the EPUB with it. All right. And we're going to name that other titles 2 and this other titles 2. All right, let's clear this override. All right, so now that we got that all set up, the next thing I need to do is clear all the overrides out. And first, I know I put some fake line breaks in here. That one's fine. And I need to go in and delete those out because we do not want those for the ebook. And we're going to clear. All right. All right, so I only put one. All right, so we're good. Let's see, I have a page break here I need to delete out, and then we're just going to clear all these overrides. I did this for space saving purposes, but we do not need them for the ebook. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to get rid of all the overrides that are in the document. I am really religious about making sure I have styles for everything. Now, the only reason why I'm going to have overrides is where I made changes to that particular paragraph to get the pages to balance. So I should have everything set to a style, at least I hope I do, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a select all and clear all the overrides. All right. All right, something's up. I can't select things properly. Okay, so now let's just quickly look through everything and make sure I don't need to make any other changes. I'm going to look at my chapter text to make sure my grep styles are gone. So I'm going to delete those. And I already changed my, let's make sure, nope, we need to change our first line indent to 0.5. Otherwise, for the Mobi, it's going to come in with a real small space. I also changed that. It comes through, I think, as 36 pixels. I typically will change that to 1.5 EM. And let's do one other thing because I don't want my styles to come through. We don't want any of that. All right, that's fine. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I just need to clean up my styles. All right, so what we're going to do is we're first going to move everything that is in our little folders. We're going to move them out. All right, because this creates a messier cascading style sheet for our ebook. So I typically will just move all these styles out and then delete those folders. Then we'll sort them. And then one thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and update the table of contents. So I need to go to Layout, Table of Contents Styles. I want my contents title to come through as that other title 2, so I need to change the style to other title 2. My chapter titles are going to come through as Table of Contents chapter title, which is fine. We don't have any part titles, so I can remove that. My other titles are going to come through as that, and then I also want to add that other titles 2 in. And take it down a level, and we are going to make it come through as TOC other title as well. We do not need page numbers, so we're going to change all of these to no page numbers, and then we're going to click on OK, and then OK, and then we're going to update the table of contents again. All right, so that got rid of all of those. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to center these, update the style, center, and update the style. All right. Now, I think that may be it. Let's go ahead and delete all the unused paragraph styles so they don't come through and create a messy cascading style sheets. So we're going to delete those. We want it to apply to all. We're going to go to our character styles, delete all, and there's nothing to delete. All right, so here are all the table of contents styles. We're going to look for the block quote because we will need to change a few things in the block quote. Now, some of these things you can actually do in the cascading style sheet, but I typically like to try to get as much done in InDesign as possible to prevent fewer and fewer changes. All right, since spacings are come through a little different, I am actually adjusting the space before and after on my block quotes to be 0.25 instead of 0.125. So again, it's going to look spaced out here, but it will look much better in the ebook. All right, so that's the way our texts look. And I think that might be it. We can add more space for the scene breaks. And these are M spaces. They're going to just come through as a regular space because we don't do M spaces. And just for purposes of this ebook, we're going to just change that to be on next page, even though it doesn't matter. This is just a visual thing with me, and we are going to make sure we split document with that particular ornament. All right, so now what I do is, let's go back to the back matter. I think we all set everything properly, and everything should be hyperlinks, so we're good. All right. Now what we're going to do is we are going to save it, and we are going to go ahead and export it as an Epub. So export Epub reflowable, and we are going to change this. Let me check my notes. Hold on just a second. I'm still doing something. What? Tonight, Bill. I'm recording and I'm working and I've got to leave. Sorry about that. Draft to digital. So she is going to be doing draft to digital. And so we need to leave this as an Epub 2.0. We're going to rasterize. We're going to add the image to her cover. And I have that under originals. There is her cover. Our TOC needs to be changed to the TOC I have set up. We want to split document based on paragraph export styles. I don't ever change anything here unless it's a nonfiction book. All right, CSS size, I always change this from fixed to relative to text flow. That way images will come through as percentages and not pixels. Conversion settings, if I have a lot of images, I will typically tweak this, change it from probably to like 96 and change the image quality down to low. And page margins, I sometimes will do 0.25, but for this, I do not need a top one. So I'm just going to do 2.5 at the bottom, 2.5 on the sides, 2.5 and 2.5 on the sides. I do not want to include embeddable fonts. I do not have any overrides, so I'm just going to check that off. I don't need them. If there are overrides, I probably should have cleared everything. So now I'm just going to call this Cupcakes and Crumbs. Now, the title of this book is with an ampersand, but we cannot have ampersands in metadata. So it needs to be Cupcakes and Crumbs and spelled out, not with an ampersand. Your creator is going to be the author name, and the date needs to be year first with a dash with the month and a dash and then 21. You can put additional metadata if you want and then click on OK. All right, so the first thing I do is I just like to make sure all of my page breaks came through properly. So here is how the ebook looks in Adobe Digital Editions. And everything looks to be like it's coming through properly. All right, so I'm just going to quickly go to the back matter because it looks like everything is good. I just like to make sure. All right, here is one hyperlink that didn't come through. So I'm just going to correct that real quick. Hyperlinks. And bring this back over. None of these came through. So we're just going to correct those. And it's a lot easier to do it in InDesign than have to go in and mess with the code. So this is what I typically do. All right, so on this page, we have all her series set up as links. And that's it. And then that is a link. So we are good. All right, so now that I have everything updated, we're going to save this again, and I am going to export again. And now we can crack it open. All right, the reason why I saved this as an Epub 2.0 is because she does plan on using Draft to Digital. Draft to Digital will accept an Epub 3.0, but Draft to Digital has some pretty cool tools. And if you have it as an Epub 2.0, authors can use their tools to update their Epubs. So if I know that they're going to use Draft to Digital, I will go ahead and give them an Epub 2.0 so they can use those cool tools that they have for Draft to Digital. It's just not set up to use for Epub 3.0. All right, so now to crack open, what I do is copy the Epub. And once I've copied it and pasted it, I change the file name to epub.zip. And then we extract all. All right, so here is our ebook. The only thing we need to worry about is this OEBPS page, and you'll see that we do not have a TOC XHTML page because this is a 2.0 Epub and not the 3.0, and that Epub 3.0 has the TOC XHTML, but an Epub 2.0 does not. So that's one of the big differences. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through. First, let's take a look at the images. I know I want let's make sure there's no duplicates. All right, so we do have a duplicate, so I'm going to make a note. 2 PNG we can delete out. So I am going to delete this. And I know I need to change the size of the cover because right now it is 993 kilobytes. I like to try to get this down to around 200 to 300. So I'm going to open this up in Photoshop. We are going to export as JPEG. We are going to change this to a width of 1,000, and we're going to drop the quality down to 700 and see what that gets us. So 257, that's good. Anything that you can do to get your file size down, that is the goal. So we need to make sure we save this back in that image folder, exactly the same name as it was, so we want to overwrite it. That way we don't have to change anything in our code. So now that image size is smaller. All right, so we've got only, what's this? Almost 400 kilobytes in images, which is pretty good. So that way we can keep our file size down. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the cascading style sheet. And we're going to clean this up. And I just have a note to myself that we need to delete that 2 PNG, because right now we would have, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. We would have errors galore if we validated this Epub, since I deleted that 2 PNG out. So we need to make sure we correct everything that needs to be corrected. All right, so this is our cascading style sheet. Why isn't it coming up? Let's see, let's try it again. Open with Dreamweaver. All right, so we need to clean it up. All right, so let's take a look. Right now, we have 558 lines in our cascading style sheet. What we're going to do now is we're going to clean this down, and we're going to get that line count down just to save a little bit of space. InDesign puts a lot of unnecessary things in the cascading style sheets. Now, it's not going to hurt to not delete this stuff, but I typically prefer clean cascading style sheets, so I like to delete it out. Color 000 is black. We don't, an ebook device doesn't need to tell anything to show it as black, so we're just going to replace all those with nothing. For this particular font, instead of the Adobe Garamond Pro, I'm just going to call it Garamond. The font is not embedded, but if a device has the Garamond font, it will display the ebook in the Garamond font. All right. Anything that says normal, we're going to delete them out. So I'm going to replace it all throughout the document. So anything that says normal, and actually we can do this a certain way. We're going to add in our little find anything code. So it's going to find anything that is set to normal, and it's going to delete it out. So we're good there. And for page breaks, we are going to delete these out because these do not work. And in a on an iPad, these actually create duplicate blank pages. So we are going to delete all of those out. Text decoration, anything that says none, we do not need, so we're going to use our same code and replace all of those. So everything for none is gone. Orphans, we do not need. Ebooks do not pay attention to orphan settings. The same with widows, replace all. So now we had 558 lines in our cascading style sheets, and now we only have 313. So that's quite a big difference. It seems silly, but it actually makes the SMOT file slightly smaller. All right, now the next few things that we're going to do is we're going to replace that text indent that we set to be 0.5. We're actually going to change it to 1.5 EM. Ebooks work better in EMs than pixels. And we are going to change the overall font size for the chapter text to 1 EM instead of that 0.917. And this number is depending on what font size you're using. So we're just going to make it all 1 EM. All right. And that's probably, we can also cut a few lines by setting, looking for all the margins that are set to 0 and just say margin 0. So that gets rid of a few more lines. Now we're at 287. And I think that's all we can really do. Let's just search. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so our cascading style sheet is done. So the next thing I do is I just start looking for things. I'm going to pull up the content OPF page. Now we know that we deleted that 2 PNG, so we need to delete that from the manifest. So I'm going to find that 2 PNG where it's referenced and delete it here. And then I'm actually going to just take this off. This is not a big deal. This is just me being particular. And really nothing else you need. You can delete all of these blank metadata lines. One thing I do like to make sure is that my language is only set to the language it is. Sometimes InDesign may throw an additional language in there, and that can cause issues. So always check that. All right, so now we're just going to save that and close it. Now what I need to do, I'm just going to open up any of these files, and I need to find, so again, you remember I used Dreamweaver, so you can do this stuff in Sigil as well. I just don't know Sigil. I'm going to find that reference to 2PNG, and I'm going to find it across my entire folder. So this is Melissa McClone, Cupcakes, Ebook, Epub, OEBPS. And we need to replace anywhere that 2PNG is with 1PNG. So we're going to replace all. And so it found it 9 times. So now we shouldn't have any reference to that 2PNG. Everything is set to 1PNG. So that saved 40 kilobytes. Not that that is a huge space, but huge size, but it does eventually add up. I mean, it may affect the ebook size. So whatever we can do to get the file size down as small as possible is our goal. All right, so the next thing I do is I just go through. We're going to start, I'm going to move this to my other screen, and I'm going to drag and drop these pages in Dreamweaver, and I'm just going to quickly glance through them. This is our cover page. We typically do not need to make any changes. All right, so we're good there. This is fine. The only thing I'm going to do is change the title. We're going to search across the entire ebook file for everything between the title tag, and we're going to change it to Cupcakes and Crumbs. This is one of those things that's really not relevant. Not all ebook devices show a title, but some do, and so InDesign puts in the title the same file name. So these are all numbered and look silly, so I just replace it with the real title. So that way on those devices that do show that as the ebook header, it will all say the book title. All right. I think I need to reboot my computer. All right, so another thing I do, wherever I have images, it generally comes through with a blank alt tag, and for accessibility purposes, you just want to fill that blank alt tag with some sort of data. All right, so all right, Cupcakes and Crumbs, Book 1 in the Berry Lake Cupcake Posse by Melissa McClone. All right, so what's going to happen is if their device is reading an ebook to them, instead of just skipping over this image with a blank alt tag, now that we put data in the alt tag, that device will read what is in our alt tag. So when it gets to this page, it will say Cupcakes and Crumbs, Book 1 in the Berry Lake Cupcake Posse by Melissa McClone. All right. All right, we're going to close that down, and we're just going to start looking at everything. Now, for these headers, we can leave a blank alt tag. All right. We don't need to say this is a cupcake. This is a header. We don't need to say that. It will just not read anything here, which is fine. All right. So this page is fine. We can close it. Let's go back. We have a couple of blank div tags. So if you're looking at pages and you scroll through and you see a bunch of white, that means you have some blank div tags that do not need to be here. So we're just going to delete these out. That is just an empty text frame we had somewhere within our document. It's not a big deal. Also, too, I always delete these text anchors that InDesign puts out on the table of contents pages. I just delete them because it just creates cleaner files. Just one of those kooky things I do. Now, if you have a nonfiction book and you have heading 1s, heading 2s, and stuff in your contents pages, don't delete these out. Just don't. It'll cause a nightmare, and we don't want that. This is just only for novels where there's just 1 page per chapter. And again, this is one of those things that you don't have to do. I just typically do it to keep it clean, and I made a mistake, so we're going to do it again. Undo it and do it again. So we're going to add our little tag here. Searches for everything, and then we are going to replace that with just that. All right, now that is correct. So we're going to close that and continue to look on. We're good here. We are going to add for this alt tag the Cardinal Press logo. And then chapter 1, no changes. Chapter 2. And again, I do this fairly quickly because I have been doing this for many, many years. So if there's something wrong, it will typically stand out to me. Chapter 6. All right, so scene break. We need to add our alt tag in. All right. So what we're going to do, because this scene break is the same throughout, and we only need to add 1 alt tag in, even though we have 3 cupcakes, we're going to search the entire document, and we are only going to put scene break in 1 alt tag, and then we're going to do a replace all. And so now all our scene breaks will say scene breaks. And then I open up the next group of 10. Again, you'll see things like this. There's nothing we can do to correct that because depending on the font size, it's going to look different. So I don't ever worry about correcting those kind of things because it's impossible to correct them for every single device. All right, so here we go. I'm just looking for anything that stands out, see if I have any blank lines at the beginning. This all came through just fine. Block quote middle. Let's look at this. Text indent 0. All right, so we need to change this text indent to be 1.5 EM to match. All right. And that was just me not updating a style properly. And that's why I look through each page because, you know, sometimes we forget certain things. All right, now I'm going to look through the last bunch. All right. Okay. All right, this is set to first para, so I'm just going to change this to centered, just because it looked silly being the only line that was left aligned. All right, about the author page, we're good. The epilogue is good. Chapter 21. All right. Then the last thing we're going to look at is this TOC NCX, and I am going to do the same thing I did to this page that I did on the table of contents. We're just going to delete out those paragraph destinations. Again, if this is a nonfiction book that you have several heading levels that are in the TOC as well, do not do this step. All right, so we're going to replace them all. Let's just make it a little bit cleaner. All right, now that's done. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to repackage this Epub and we're going to validate it. So to repackage it, you can use a program called eCan Crusher. I just do it manually. To do that, start with a MIME type file, do a send to compressed zip folder, drag your meta.inf folder down, and then drag your OEBPS folder down. You have to do it exactly like that, otherwise it's not going to validate. Then we're going to change the name of the file to what it is. I'm going to add Epub 01, and then we're going to add the extension, which is .epub. It'll say the file may become unstable, but it's not going to. Now what we're going to do is we're going to validate it. So we're going to drag that Epub into our little Pagina Epub checker and keep our fingers crossed. No errors or warnings detected. We're good. Now, if anybody ever validates an Epub and they have a slew of errors and you just don't know how to get through it, send it to me. I'll create a video on what to look for and how to clear up those errors. When you've been doing it for a long time, you're not going to get a lot of errors. If you're new to it and wind up making a lot of tweaks in the HTML files, you might get a lot of errors. All right, so now that it clears and checks out, we're going to create the Mobi file. So we are going to do that using Kindle Previewer. So we're going to open up Kindle Previewer, drag and drop the Epub, and Kindle Previewer is going to convert it for us. And then you can also view what it looks like in Kindle Previewer. So this is what it'll look like on a Mobi, and you can view how it looks like in a tablet, on a phone, and on an e-ink reader. So this is what it looks like on like a tablet device. And it's going to look different on every tablet. This is what it looks like on a phone. Again, it's going to look a little different on every phone. This is what it's going to look like on an e-reader. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to export, and we're going to export it as a Mobi. And I change that EPUB to KNDL and click on OK. And the ebook is done, and I mail it to my client and ask them if they need any changes just to let me know. So I'm going to continue to do these videos just because the more and more you see it, the more familiar you'll become with the process. So I hope doing these videos is helpful to you, because each ebook is going to be different depending on how you designed it. So anyway, take care. Have a great day.